What's real hip hop? Some of y'all forgot. Make you lose your cool as soon as the beat drop. What's real hip hop? Some of y'all forgot. Run DMC, Beastie Boys, Tupac. What's real hip hop? Some of y'all forgot. Used to rhyme clever lyrics and nobody got shot. What's real hip hop? Some of y'all forgot. Now dance to the knowledge rhythm, listen, I drop.
With 2 turntables and a microphone, I turn up as soon as the mic comes on.
So we're back from the commercial break, and we're talking about expanding your brand and taking a stand. White Chocolate, I got to come to you. I'm not picking on you, it's a love. You've kind of shown, what you've been through to get to this point. Mm-hmm. How did that drive you to expand your brand? Because a lot of people get discouraged. You try something once, you're not good at it.
Right, but this goes right back into your original question, my drive and why I'm so strong. Because when you sit down as a woman and as a mother and you have 4 little people that you have to go home to every day, and you don't get government assistance, and I don't get food stamps, and I don't ask, excuse me, this is how I talk, I don't ask these crackers for nothing. You feel me? I don't want nothing. You're not going to tell me what I got to do. And I done been to jail, so I don't like to be told what to do. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, I handle my business. And when I go home, I have 4 little people that I have to make sure that they are taken care of, make sure that they have food, and make sure my lawn gets done and things of that nature. So I have to play that position of mom, dad, like I said earlier, the lawn man, and everything. Right, so my children are my drive. They're all I got.
Okay. So, and that if you don't have something driving you to push you when there's nothing else to push for, a lot of people do it for their children, as she stated, but also that ability to try to be self-sufficient. We're getting handed things all the time.
Spoon-fed, and I'm not spoon-fed.
Yeah. And the thing is, the things they're handed to us aren't necessarily what we want. Now, I wanted to touch on things from a different perspective and let Grand Groove get in this as well, because expanding has a lot to do with expectation. Mm-hmm. If you don't expect better, you're not going to get better. If you sit and stay for the status quo, guess what you're going to get? You're going to continue to get the status quo. I commend you from the standpoint of your struggle obviously is not something that one would expect, but you still had a higher expectation out of life for yourself, and that comes from within. And it goes back to that centeredness as well. Grand Groove, I want to tie you into this conversation because I know you're a visionary, and a lot of the things you do, people in this Florida area aren't exactly up on, or in some cases, ready for. And I can kind of sympathize with that struggle because, I ain't trying to offend nobody, but at the end of the day, people are used to, if you're used to the same, put somebody on stage, pay to perform, I invite nobody out and everybody gets on stage and we go home. This festival that you're putting on, you're inviting people and you're shouldering that cost. You're shouldering that burden. And I know it's a difficult process, and people don't necessarily know what to do with it unless they're from a place where they do things like that, like where you're from, New York. So what I want to ask you, because I've been with you and following what you do as well, and a lot of times you're a little bit ahead of what Florida is doing here in Tampa specifically, maybe not in different areas. So the question is this: do you find cooperation with the wrong people to be the biggest hurdle, or do you find people who are trying to compete with everyone the biggest hurdle? And if you can expound upon that, because there's a lot of people trying to compete against other people, and sometimes you cooperate with the wrong set of individuals, it'll have you going down a slippery slide with a razor blade. Yeah, and you're gonna get cut.
Man, I tell you, that is probably the best question that I've heard all night. Collaborating with the wrong people. Mm-hmm. The thing about me and my music festival is that I have the luxury of choosing who I do business with. Mm-hmm. I was talking with White Chocolate earlier today, and I said that the music, the artists, the DJs that are involved with my music festival, all has to be clean because my music festival is family friendly. So if you cannot provide me with the music that you have recorded, and it is free from bleeps, it's free from negative, and I'm gonna say this, you could bleep it out, bitches, guns, drugs, hoes, that kind of stuff. If your music is not free from that, I'm not even gonna consider it. Because my music festival, as I mentioned before, everybody knows. If you've been to it, you know it's family friendly. We have people our age, we have people younger, we have people older. You bring your kids, you bring your nieces, nephews. And if your music is offensive to those, if your standards are like, well, I can't bring my kids over here because the music is going to talk about guns, drugs, violence, you can't be a part of it. So I do have the luxury of choosing who I do business with. And it also does something to the people who want to be a part of the music festival in that it encourages them to step up their game. You got a lot of talent. You got a lot of people out here that I will personally bang their music in my car. I would personally bang their music in my car as I'm driving up 75 or 275. But the thing is, their music it involves the negative elements that I personally would not put on my stage. But this is me. I'm an adult. I can filter that out. But what I put forth in my product has to be of a higher standard. And so if you can't filter yourself, you can't be a part of that higher standard, then you can't be a part of my music festival. Because ultimately, what we demonstrate is what we, as a hip hop culture, can do when we control our own music. When we control what we filter in, when we control what we ingest, then it takes control away from the Hollywood element and all of these mumble rappers. And forgive me for picking on them, but the mumble rappers who don't make no sense, who, in order to be successful, have to incorporate that negative element. And we demonstrate. The people who have come to my music festival, they will tell you, at the end of the day, man, we had a good time. And at the end of the day, there was no guns, no drugs, no violence, no degradation of women. And most of all, if you look at the videos and the pictures and all of that stuff, not a single one of my music festivals will you see that I have police protection, because I didn't need it. Because the positive element was there. I didn't need it.
And I think there's more than one thing you can take from what you're saying. I think that a lot of people are afraid to stand alone. They're afraid to stand alone. And to grow, I think we were having a conversation about this earlier. You don't plant two oak trees within 10 feet of each other. Because the roots are going to hit each other, and there's going to be conflict at a certain point. The lane that you're traveling, you've made it a point to separate yourself from what everybody else is doing intentionally. And I think because you're doing that, it gives you room to expand your brand. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, there's only so much expansion you're going to get. If you're rapping like Migos, I'm sorry, your record's not going to be on the charts very long, because there's 10, 15 other cats around the block rapping just like Migos is. But if you're doing something that is expanding your brand, but you have to kind of go to the side.
But in that, honestly, in no offense in any way, I'm sure you understand, marketably speaking, they like mumble rap. Some people do like it, and it's selling. But when you're dealing with, as far as that, element of hip hop, myself personally, again, I can only reiterate on myself of what I like. I like that content. I like when you speak of struggle. And most of those mumble rappers, they don't know that. They just want to be rappers, and they're just, when they're in the studio, it's just like, get the beat and just say some shit, and that's where the content of the drugs and the money and all that kind of stuff come in. Now, I'm not saying certain people are not living that life, because some of them are.
But peep this. See, the thing that's different about me is that I came from an era of hip hop, and everybody that knows me, I tell you the same thing. I came from an era of hip hop in New York City before hip hop became commercial, and during that underground period of hip hop, the DJ controlled the music. The DJ controlled what was played. The DJ controlled what was nice or what was whack.
But you also understand, in the hip hop industry, we have lost those elements, just like we've lost a lot of morals and a lot of values. And that's why we need more people like us to be out here. But again, we can stand here all day and talk until you're blue in the face. They have to want to listen.
D. Cole, I didn't want to leave you out of this conversation because what you do is something I wanted to touch on as well. We've been talking heavy about this music industry, but when I say this, I mean it from the core of me. I miss those days when the music reflected what was on the movie screen, and what was reflected on the movie screen could identify with a generation. And that type of synergy, it takes cooperation, and it's missing. Every now and again, you see a project that might do something that resonates with a generation, but it seems like we're losing that connectivity to the human consciousness, and it concerns me. And that's kind of why I brought you on to talk about a couple of things. So Cole, we've been talking about a lot here.
Yeah, we have.
How do you connect that gap through what you do, and how do you make a determination on what you are willing to be a participant on or what you pass on?
It's so funny, man, that both the other panelists had great arguments about the things that they're talking about in their passion.
Strong and heated.
But it's so funny because for me, I always find that we're always on the same side of the argument, but we particularly pick stuff apart. Like, so for example, DJ over here, he wants to provide a family-friendly environment, basically to try to create a family to be inclusive. And White Chocolate, she was saying, yo, let's not exclude people because of their genre or their taste or whatever. If we want to be inclusive, let's be inclusive all around. Okay. And I think that as human beings, man, if you want to make it from a theological standpoint, or if you want to come from the street standpoint, that we have we are, as human beings, we have the responsibility for other human beings. And if we don't take that responsibility, like, your purpose is directly connected to whatever your gifts are.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of times we fail to realize, one, because we don't know what our gifts are.
Right.
Like we have zero idea what exactly our gift is, and Steve Harvey said it best when he was like, yo, your gift is it's the thing that you do with the most ease and brings you the most pleasure.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy for you to do, because as an actor, man, as of right now, I'm not getting bags and bags of money, but every single day that I wake up, I know that I'm successful because I'm taking an opportunity to do something that I have a gift to do, I have a knack to do. So I cannot be that person that says that I feel bad when I exclude somebody from my gift. So a young lady came up to me earlier and said, yo, I got a son that wants to get into acting. Could you help him? Absolutely. There's zero way and I don't care who he is, whether he's black, white, Jew, Gentile, Protestant, Catholic, it doesn't matter what he is. To me, because if he comes to me and he's asking me about something that I have a knack for, I have an ability to do, it's my responsibility. I have to take ownership over that and say, yo, let me at least give you the knowledge. Let me give you this information and let you do whatever you do with it. And if you can't do that as a human being that has a gift, that has a purpose, then you have to figure out what it is that's going on with yourself. And typically that ties back to your core as a human being, the who, what, when, where, and how, who you are, how you were raised, who you deal with, who you let feed into you. The two wolves. The one that wins is the one that you feed the most. Right. So, and that's the nature of the beast. We have to get to that point where we're feeding the good wolf, the one that really wants to be inclusive, the one that wants to be a part of the pack, right, and not the one that wants to be the outskirts, the ones that wants to be outskirts.
And I wanted to touch on that because this is the thing, people run in different packs, and I think personally you feed the ones you want to be with you.
That's true.
At the end of the day, you feed the ones you want to be with you, and if you don't, you've chosen not to help for a reason. You know, and that's one of those things we're not going to solve on an episode of What's Real Hip Hop.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you have to make decisions, and they're tough decisions. Sometimes you have to take a stand to expand your brand. Sometimes you have to reach out to expand your brand.
But it's about growing and learning.
Yeah.
As long as we on Earth.
We all still learning. So,
you know, on that note, I want everybody to kind of share their IG, Facebook information only, because at this point, they know what you do. They know what you're passionate about. So how can they find you? That's all we need to know.
well, you can find me on Instagram at baylife_entertainment_magazine. You can find me on Facebook under Misty Flowers, Baylife Entertainment Magazine, Baylife Entertainment, or White Chocolate. And you can find me in the streets, you know.
Grand Groove, where can they find you?
You can find me on djgrandgroove.com. My parent company, Groove Entertainment, LLC.com, and that's Groove Entertainment with one E, sharing the groove and the entertainment. You can find me on social media, Instagram at Groove Entertainment. You can find me on FubuRadio.com. Thursdays and Fridays on my mix show. You can find me on Mixcloud, DJ Grand Groove, everything DJ Grand Groove.
No doubt. Cole, where can I find you?
Mine is very simple. I don't have all these pages and tags and all this stuff. It's the same on. It's the same on.
What you trying to say?
It's the same on Instagram that it is on Facebook. It's Dewan Cole, DUJUANCOLE. You can find me on either one of those. Follow me. I have a show coming up September the 2nd at the Tampa Bay Theater Festival. It will be at Carolwood Players. You can get your tickets at eventbrite.com/Keeping My Brother.
No doubt. So on that note, this is Big Business signing off. Expand your brand. Be different.